What is going on, everyone? This is Eric coming at you from just outside of Hartford, Connecticut. And today we will be discussing the aforementioned Yoenis Céspedes trade, which occurred on July 31st, 2014. Now, in case you're wondering, normally we only would discuss the first two teams involved in the trade. However, for this one, because the Céspedes trade covers a lot of different ones, this is an important trade, so I did cover the third team as well, which is, of course, the Detroit Tigers, but we will get to that when we get to that one. I just wanted to get that little, I don't want to call it a disclaimer, but disclaimer out of the way. So, as you can see, of course, we are keeping this black tarp background, of course. I enjoy it. I think it makes it a little nicer. Again, if you guys don't like it, definitely feel free to leave a comment, let me know. But let's jump right into the video. So, of course, the original Yoenis Céspedes trade was Boston acquiring, obviously, the aforementioned outfielder Yoenis Céspedes from the Oakland Athletics in exchange for starting pitcher Jon Lester and utility man outfielder Jonny Gomes. How did this work out for those two teams? Well, we'll start with Boston. So, Yoenis Céspedes had a pretty good half season in Boston, but he didn't hit that many home runs, and he ends up getting traded after the 2014 season concluded to the Detroit Tigers. Now, Boston would trade Yoenis Céspedes along with a pair of relievers in Alex Wilson and Gabe Speier to Detroit in exchange for starting pitcher Rick Porcello. So for Boston, Rick Porcello, he played 5 seasons in Boston. Now, he actually would go on to win a Cy Young Award in 2016, which, of course, means he made the All-Star game in 2016. And in 2018, he was a part of that World Series winning team. Now, after the 2019 season concluded, he walked, he signed with the Mets. So, they got 5 solid seasons out of him. Of course, a Cy Young Award is nothing to scoff at. So, Boston, I don't want to say they definitely won this trade, but getting a Cy Young pitcher who helps you win a World Series is nothing to scoff at. Now we'll go back to Oakland. And Oakland, of course, they got Jon Lester, who he had a strong half season in Oakland as their ace, but they couldn't re-sign him and he would walk. So he did a little better than Céspedes did in their half season, but they didn't get anything for him. And Jonny Gomes, he didn't play that well in the half season before he himself also walked. So, yeah, interesting original trade. But now, of course, we're going to get to Detroit. And Detroit leads us all around, which is good. So, I had mentioned that they had acquired these 3 players in Céspedes, Wilson, and Speier. So, Yoenis Céspedes, he had an elite half season for Detroit, which saw him win a Gold Glove for the team. But then, he himself gets traded. Yes, another trade with Céspedes. And he gets traded to the New York Mets in exchange for a pair of pitchers in Michael Fulmer and Luis Cessa. So, Fulmer, he won AL Rookie of the Year in 2016, and he actually went on to make the All-Star game in 2017, but he's kind of dealt with injuries since then, unfortunately. And Luis Cessa, so he spent a half season in the minors for Detroit. But he ends up getting traded to the New York Yankees alongside relief pitcher Chad Green in exchange for relief pitcher Justin Wilson. So Wilson himself, he had a solid 1.5 seasons for Detroit, and due to Detroit being a rebuilding team, he would become their closer, and he wasn't a bad closer, which of course leads to a rebuilding team saying, hey, we don't need this guy. So, yet another trade, the Tigers would trade Justin Wilson alongside catcher Alex Avila, who was the son of the, at the time, general manager Al Avila. So, it goes to show you, his dad didn't want to keep him on the team. It goes to show you that he was very concerned about the team. Trading them to the Chicago Cubs in exchange for infielder Jeimer Candelario and shortstop Isaac Paredes. So how did those two Tigers do? Well, Candelario himself, he's still playing on the team, and He had a good season in 2017 in limited plate appearances for the Tigers, but since then he hasn't really taken much, he hasn't taken advantage of the opportunities he's been given with plate appearances. He's been making some good defensive plays, and he plays all around the diamond, which is always good for somebody like him. It helps keep him in the lineup and gives him more and more opportunities. But Candelario is a solid player. And Paredes, he's a current minor leaguer in the Detroit system. Now, of course, we're going to jump back this way. Alex Wilson, he spent 4 years as a decent pitcher for Detroit, and he was originally a starter, but he really made his name more known as a relief pitcher. And he would walk after the 4 seasons were up. And after leaving Detroit, he kind of, I don't want to say fell off a cliff, but he hasn't been the same pitcher. And Gabe Speier himself, he spent 1 year in the minors for Detroit before he himself was included in a trade to Atlanta alongside another relief pitcher in Ian Kroll for outfielder Cameron Maybin. So Cameron Maybin, he had a good season in Detroit, but injuries would limit him to only 90 games before he himself was traded to the Los Angeles Angels in exchange for another relief pitcher in Victor Alcantara. Now, Alcantara, he bounced between the minors and majors for 3 seasons before he himself said, "I'm done with Detroit," and he left the team in free agency. So you can see this is a rebuilding Detroit team. It starts as a competitive team, and then it just starts rebuilding. So lots of trades. But we already discussed Oakland, Boston, and Detroit. How did the other teams involved do? We'll start with the Mets, just because they're the ones who got Yoenis Céspedes. Oh man, there's a story with this one. If you're a Mets fan, I feel for you. So Céspedes was good when healthy for the team, but he just couldn't stay healthy. And the saga never ends. So basically, I'm going to kind of do a brief summary here of it. So Céspedes with the Mets starts off really good, and then he basically has 2 years off because he gets hurt in a game, and then we have the 2019 season, which is just a complete mess, in which he gets hurt at his home. It was so weird. He's rehabbing, and he gets hurt at his home, which means he's out for the rest of the season. They kept saying, oh, he'll be coming back soon, and then, another setback, gets hurt. Oh, he'll be back soon. It's okay, he'll be back. Another setback. Then we get to the 2020 season, where we see, oh yeah, he'll be back, and then the season starts, and he does come back early on, hits a homer with one of his first at bats, if not his first at bat in the 2020 season, and then we have the whole story there where he basically, it's just such a mess that he just decides to leave the hotel room, packs up all his stuff, leaves, goes home without telling anybody, and then his agent says, oh, he opted out. It's just, you got to feel bad for the Mets. Céspedes is a free agent after this season, so I don't think the Mets are going to re-sign him. I mean, just that much of a mess for the last 2.5 years of your contract. They don't want you anymore. But again, war-wise, he was a solid pickup for them. They probably wish they kept Fulmer, but it is what it is. Atlanta, so Gabe Speier, he gets included in the Shelby Miller trade, which will be another video for another day. And Ian Kroll, he would play in Atlanta for parts of 2 seasons. Nothing great, nothing spectacular, but good enough to stay in the majors. The Yankees, well, the Yankees got Sessa. He's been bouncing between AAA and the majors since 2016, so he's been hanging around for a while. While Chad Green, he's been one of New York's better relief pitchers since being acquired in 2016. The Los Angeles Angels with Cameron Maybin, he underachieved based on his $9 million salary, but he was decent over a half season before he himself left. And last but not least, the Cubbies. Justin Wilson, he was okay for 1.5 seasons before he himself, ended up leaving. And Alex Avila, he was a decent backup catcher for a half season before he himself left. So that is the Yoenis Céspedes trade in its entirety. Of the 3 major teams involved, who won? Detroit. I mean, this whole page is basically Detroit. Detroit had a WAR of 26.9, all said and done, with the Yoenis Céspedes trade, while Boston had a 10.6 WAR, and Oakland came in last, if you want to say that, with a 1.3 WAR. Now, of course, I don't look to see if they got any compensatory balance picks from these players walking in free agency. That's a mess. Then the other teams, the Mets got themselves a good 7.8 WAR out of Céspedes. Yankees got a 6.4, mostly because of Chad Green. Angels got a 1.6 out of Cameron Maybin. The Cubbies got a 1.2 out of their 2 players. And Atlanta got a 0.5 out of their 2 relievers. But if I included the Shelby Miller trade, that WAR would go up. That's all I'm going to say. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, feel free to leave a like. Leave a comment, definitely, especially if you don't like this background, or if you do like this background. Make sure to subscribe. We appreciate it. Have a great rest of your day, everyone.